Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about soldering copper. So I'm going to do my setup here just for ease of filming, but you'll do almost all of this apart from the actual soldering on one of the desks. So you don't need to do this over here. You're going to start, I've done one here earlier in True Blue Peter style, but we're basically going to solder 3 joints, and you're going to have a 100mm section of copper pipe. Now you might recognize this sort of soldering from your house. If you look at your radiators and your plumbing, if it's gas plumbing, then it's going to use copper, and if it's old plumbing, so a lot of the time they use plastic now. So you're going to use a scribe and a level, a square, sorry, and you're just going to measure out and try and get it as accurate as you can and give yourself a small mark. We're going to use a pipe cutter, which is really ingenious. So you simply close it around the pipe on your mark. You'll see on there is an arrow. So if I show you the arrow there and you turn, I'll try and do it so you can see. Keep turning the pipe cutter and it will cut you the pipe. Now the genius of this particular little invention for plumbers is it gives you an angle on the end of the copper, which means for these fittings, that will then fit in perfectly. And it actually also works with the plastic fitting, and it means it doesn't damage any seals for the plastic fitting. Let's move that out of the way. So as I say, you won't be doing this on the forge other than the actual soldering. So now what you need to do is you need to get rid of any impurities on the end of the copper. So I'm going to do this quickly, but you need to do it properly. And you're going to use some wire wool, and you're just going to take away any impurities from the end of that. And you'll see, hopefully, you can see a shinier section there. And then obviously I want to make sure I'm not touching that section. If you remember back to year 8 when you did jewellery. And then what I want to do, let's do it for this one. I'm going to clean the inside. Again, this one's really important to get right. It's less important for our application when we're just practicing, but if you imagine we were doing some gas piping or some plumbing, then making sure that these seal absolutely perfectly is vital. So the inside of there is now clean-ish. Like I say, I'm not doing this as well as you're going to do it. You're then going to get some flux. Okay, the flux is going to help the solder move around the joint. You don't need a huge amount, and you're going to want to keep this brush clean. Again, put the flux on away from the forge because we don't want anything flammable on the forge. And you're going to brush, let's just make sure it's on camera, on the inside of your copper there. Again, that's probably just about right, if not slightly too much. And then we're going to put the flux on our joint here. Make sure this rubbish brush doesn't give you any hairs in your joint. Put those two together. I'm just going to give it a little bit further up here. Okay, so that's a nice tight fit. I'm going to put that across the 2 bricks. This is the solder. Now, we can leave this solder like this, and effectively what I'm going to do, because you won't be able to hear once I put the extraction on and light up the torch, is I'm going to heat up this area. Now, this torch is way more than we need, so we don't need a huge amount of heat. And then I'm going to dab the solder in here. Okay? And you'll see, hopefully, it will run around the joint. We do not need a huge amount of solder. A small amount is all we need. So, you now won't be able to hear me, but hopefully you'll be able to see. Obviously this is going to be extremely hot, so you now need to not touch it. But considering I only put the solder on one side, you can see that solder, hopefully, if I turn it all the way around, has got all around my joint. And if you look carefully just inside there, hopefully you can see the solder is now all around that joint. And if I take 2 pairs of pliers, then I no longer can lift or pull that joint out. So that is now soldered together. And that's what you're going to have a go at. Obviously, you'll be supervised once you get to the actual using the torch. But hopefully it should be a bit of fun. Make sure you have nothing flammable and you're well aware this is going to take quite a while to cool down. All right? Best of luck.